Most people think about what they want to have, right? When you think about what you want to have, you get desperate, you start feeling like you need to work hard, you get attached to an outcome. But to really get what you want in life, you got to create who you're being and really look and explore, like, who are you being? What is the identity that you are experiencing of yourself, so that you can eventually have the things that you want to have. The reason why you should be intentional with your identity is because not intentional with your identity, you'll create an identity of yourself that you don't want. You're living into a life and you're creating yourself to be someone that you don't want to be. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why we need to be intentional with our identity. So really creating, like, who is it that I want to be? So my name is Su Patel, and I am all about helping people create a higher level of self-worth and really create a flow of abundance. Abundance in joy, abundance in love, abundance in money. And I really want to welcome you to my YouTube channel. Thank you for being here. So I'd love for you to connect to my Instagram. When we're not intentional with our identity, okay, what generally happens is we keep reaffirming what we don't want in our lives, what we don't want to be, what we don't want to have, and we don't want to do. And we continue to do those things because we're not intentional. We're literally working our lives on autopilot. Like, we're not thinking about, okay, how do I want my life to be? What kind of experiences do I want to have? All right. Like, we're not really creating ourselves, like, we're not being intentional with it, right? It's all kind of automatic, it's on autopilot, and we're not really, we're not really creating exactly or being specific about what it is that we want. And when life is in autopilot, what happens is you get frustration kicks in, you start getting uncomfortable, and you do get to a place of resignation. Like, why is my life the way it is? Why do these things keep happening to me? Why does life not move forward? Why am I not progressing? Why am I not fulfilling all my dreams? All right. Now, all of these things happen is because you haven't yet created the identity of someone who has those dreams, who has that level of life, or who has those goals or those results already fulfilled on. Okay, like, you don't identify yourself as someone who already has that, so then you don't get to live the best life that you want. Okay, so that's the impact of you not being intentional with your identity. Let me just give you an example. So forever that I know, I grew up in a pretty low income family. And I really identified myself as being this poor little Indian girl. All right. I was very, very, very shy. I didn't speak to people, and I just related myself to being inadequate, and nothing going on over here. And I literally lived into that identity for so many years, and nothing worked. When I went to work, I was constantly a victim of being this poor little Indian girl. All right. And that's how I related to myself. I wasn't open to opportunities. I wasn't taking risks. I wasn't putting myself out there. And so then life was very mediocre, and I was getting the results of that identity all throughout my life, So when you really start to create, who is it that you want to live into? What are the experiences that you want? So say, for example, you're somebody who wants a YouTube channel, or somebody who wants X level of wealth, for example. All right, is who do you need to be to then have that? A lot of us always focus on what we want to have. Like, people say, oh, I want to be a millionaire, or I want to have £1 million, or I want to live in a mansion, or I want to have this car, right? But they're not creating themselves as being someone who can then have that. Like, you can't have the things. The reason why you don't have those things is because you're not creating yourself to be the person who's experiencing that now. Because if you were, you'd have it. So who do you need to be? What kind of person? How do you need to be? When I say who do you need to be and how do you need to be, how would you be walking? How would you be talking? What would you be wearing? What kind of energy would you be vibing at? All right. If you were someone who drove that Lamborghini, if you were someone who had that $1 million in your bank, if you were someone who lived in a penthouse, like who would you be being when you already have that? So you've got to really create. It's really weird, you know, people say that if I don't see it, I won't believe it. But actually the way that life actually works is that you've got to believe it before you see it. Okay, and you've got to believe it in your whole being, in the way you hear, in the way you see, in the way you speak, in the way you carry yourself. You've got to really experience it in your being before you see it. Okay, so that's why you really need to be intentional with your identity, but also that's how you start creating it, is really start thinking about, get a pen and paper and write down, like, who would I be being? How would I be speaking? What would I be saying? How would, you know, what kind of people would you be surrounding yourself with if you were someone who drove a Lamborghini or a Ferrari, or somebody who had £1 million, you know, pounds in your account, or you lived in a penthouse? What kind of people would you be surrounding yourself with? What kind of conversations would you be having? So I really want you to have a think about that, okay? Because when you can really think about that, that's when you're starting to be intentional, okay, with the life to get the results that you want, all right? A lot of the time, when we focus on what we want to have, we then start becoming attached to that outcome, like it's outside of us, like it's, oh no, I need to work harder, or I need to do this more or that more. And then we start people pleasing, we started getting desperate, and doing everything we can to go and get that thing, all right? But actually, life is so much more easier when you really it's just that you need to create a way of being about that. So I hope you've got something from what I've shared with you today. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you today, right, is because there's so many people out there who really want to dream, you know, they have dreams and they want to live into this life of like fulfillment, enjoyment, of love, peace, freedom, and they don't have it because they don't identify with themselves as somebody who can have that life, all right? And I want that for everyone, okay? So go and do the homework, go and check out who it is that you want to be, and then start living into that identity. So I hope you got something from what I've shared with you today. Make sure you do the homework and really create the identity that you want to live into to have the best life that you could possibly have. And if you want to connect with me, please connect with me on Instagram, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.